2 Tango Delta, holding short of 17, ready for departure.
Welcome back. So the purpose of this flight was to see if I could get the aircraft up to 5,000 feet with the cooling that I have.
352 Tango Delta, Veld Alpha Tower, eastbound departure approved, runway 17, clear for takeoff.
Eastbound turnout, runway 17, clear for takeoff, 352 Tango Delta.
So this is the second flight with the new oil cooler that's cooling the oil that's coming out of the redrive. And at this point, I'm still not 100% happy with how the cooling is working, but I still have other options. And since the recording of this flight, I've actually made some what I think will be substantial changes to the cooling, and yet to be tested because I'm waiting on the weather. And also have that new oil seal replaced in the redrive now. So as soon as we get a good weather window, I'll be up and testing all this stuff, which will be good. And in the meantime, let's take a look at how this flight went. So actually up in the air for, I think it was, I'm rounding it up to an hour, but I think it was basically 57 minutes from wheels up to wheels down. So longest flight yet. And it was nice and smooth, good time of the day again. It took off just after 5 o'clock and was on the ground just after 6, I believe. So it was really nice time of the day to fly around here. Anyway, I'll let you watch this takeoff here. And I recall on the last video somebody had commented that I'm flying in the dark with no lights on the aircraft. Well, I mean, if you think about it for a little bit, where would you put the lights? You don't want them to be, your strobes to be flashing into the cabin. So yeah, I've got lights on the aircraft. They're on the outside of the winglets. And, obviously I don't have a camera that is mounted that picks up what's on the outside of the winglets. But I have, the nav and strobe lights combination on either side of the winglets. And then I also have on the nose gear, when that comes down, I've got landing and taxi lights on there. And again, you can't see those when those are on from any of the camera angles that I have. So yeah, I do have lights and I am using them. Actually have the nav and strobes on all the time when I'm flying here, just to help, people to be able to see me. And I put the landing and taxi lights on, when appropriate and coming into land or taxiing around. So yeah, that's to answer that question.
For 352 Tango Delta, what altitude are you climbing to?
Probably 4, and then maybe a little bit higher than that.
And if you've been following along, you'll know that my procedure is here climbing out to, pull the prop back to get the RPMs lower, which keeps the EGTs down. And then as I'm doing that, I slowly pull the power back. So you can see over there in the bottom corner, I'm 13.5 gallons an hour. So I'm already at, like 60% power at that point, or 65% power there. So yeah, once I get this cooling underway, I'll sort it out. I'll still be pulling the prop back, so that'll reduce the fuel flow because the RPMs will come down. But I should be able to keep the the manifold pressure, or just keep the throttle in, quite a lot more. Maybe all the way to 100% once I've got this dialed in. We'll see. That's that's the goal. That's always been the goal, and I think it's possible to do it. I've just got to fix it out. Cooling has always been an issue with new aircraft, as you may well know. Some people get it right, and others like me, you have to sort of fight through it one little battle at a time to get it sorted out. But I'm making progress. If you see where I am, from earlier steps where I really couldn't run the engine for any sort of power for very long without it getting too hot, I've made definitely some good progress in the right direction.
Star, step up for Charlie Charlie, hold short 17, ready to go. Number 254 Charlie, say directional flight.
I'll head out south.
4 Charlie, southbound departure approved, runway 17, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 254 Charlie, thank you.
And I believe somebody had asked, or a couple of people had asked, what the sound levels were in the cabin. Well, obviously I got my Bose headset on, and there's really no sound sort of deadening in the cabin and that, but it's quieter in there, I would think, than, you know, a Cessna 182 or 172 by quite a lot, especially because the engine is behind you. And I think it's smoother too, you know, once you've got the engine up at the higher RPMs, around 3,000 RPM, it's much smoother as well. Alright, so now you can see we've jumped ahead and I'm up over 4,000 feet, and there was kind of like a smoky haze inversion going on there that really wasn't that apparent at lower altitude. But you know, here I was actually flying above it, and I can't remember what the temperatures were, but I think the temperatures here were maybe slightly warmer than on the ground. But anyway, as you can see, quite the haze below. But you know, it really doesn't affect me for what I'm doing right now. Still all VFR. You know, all my flying now is VFR. You know, the ship is capable of doing IFR, but I've got to get the 40 hours flown off of it first, and then I'll have to get myself IFR current. I'm actually night current now, which is good because I've been flying in one of the Tiger aircraft here, doing a little bit of instruction after hours. So I got night current there about a week ago, which is good. And actually it's been good flying in the Tiger aircraft as well, because it's given me a chance to sort of compare what the weather conditions and the air conditions and stuff are like, you know, in that aircraft compared to mine. So it gives me a different and, you know, good perspective. So I leveled out just around 4,000 feet there and just let the temperatures sort of stabilize for a little bit, and then you know, the intention was to try to get up to 5,000 feet. You know, still, you know, just getting there with a thinner air and you know, potentially less cooling from that air if the temperature was the same. I knew it may be a bit of a struggle, but the good thing is that the way that I've got the turbos configured for the power setting that I was holding right there, the PSI on that second turbo, or I guess the PSI going into the engine, was maintaining about 34 PSI, and that's exactly what it would be on the ground. You can actually see at lower altitude I was holding the same throttle setting, the same prop setting, and I was still getting the same 34 PSI. So, which is good. It means that the turbo is doing its job. It's basically keeping the pressure in the inlet to the engine exactly where I need it to be, and you know, that was the goal. And you know, some people have said that, oh, you've got your turbos figured around the wrong way, and honestly I don't think that I have. You can configure compound turbos, you know, two different ways, and the way you do it in a car is to get rid of the lag, you know, putting the bigger turbo ahead of the small one. But I don't really have that problem. To me, it's just putting them in series, and just, you know, whatever they are, it's going to you know, compound the pressure. Alright, so now we're a little bit further up, now 4,600 according to the G3X, and this is where I start to do climb up to 5,000, and it wasn't really having, you know, too many problems doing that once I started the climb, but it was, you know, pretty slow climb. I was only climbing at maybe 200 feet a minute, but you can see where my fuel flow is there. I've got the power back at 12 gallons an hour, so you can imagine what it would be like if I can climb like in most aircraft and, you know, put it to full power and climb. And, you know, honestly, I think once I get the cooling sorted out, I'm going to be a lot closer to that than what I am right now. But, you know, being able to get...
555, turn left, taxiway, Foxtrot, hold short, taxiway alpha, contact, ground went off. Alright, left on Foxtrot, and hold short alpha, and we'll contact ground. That's good, 555.
And being able to make it to 5,000 feet with, you know, such a low power setting, I think is pretty decent just in itself. So, you know, although I you know, want to get the cooling sorted out, and that it's very encouraging that I can get up here with you know, suboptimal cooling as it is. And as you can see, I'm coming up on 5,000 feet right there, and there it is. At least, you know, according to the G3X. It's a little bit lower reading there on the Garmin camera that, you know, has the GPS information. But I did climb up a little bit higher than this. It wasn't just, you know, one shot at it, as you'll see. So Garmin there is showing, the Garmin camera is showing 4,870. And still going up. I believe that one gets to 4,940 something, not quite 5,000. Of course, I can't see that when I'm flying, so I have no idea what that's showing. But there you can see on the G3X, I've got 51, pretty much, well, 5,090 at that point. So I was able to make it, and you can see at this point now I've only got 11.4 gallons an hour that I'm burning there. So I mean, or 10.9 at this point, so I'm almost at half power at this point, and maintaining altitude at 5,000 feet I think is pretty decent. So you know, it's, everything I do now is an improvement to make things better. So for what I've got right now, I'm pretty happy, and you know, just give me some more time, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it climb faster, and I'm going to make it climb higher, and I'm going to make it cooler, because that's basically what I'm working on. And there's plenty of different ways of doing things, and as you'll see, I don't want to give you any spoilers and stuff, but as you'll see, you know, I think I've made some substantial changes here that are going to make a big difference. So yeah, up at 5,000 feet, not for very long, and then, you know, as you can see, the sun was going down, and so it wasn't too much longer that you know, I decided to make my descent. So here I'm actually starting the initial part of the descent, and about halfway down I ended up calling tower, as you'll see. And up at this altitude it was super smooth, as you can probably tell. The aircraft wasn't sort of moving around at all, just basically it's like it's on rails. So I'm pretty happy with that, and honestly, just to sum up with how things are with the aerodynamics, definitely I think there's gains to be had by experimenting with different shapes for the tips of the foreplane in order to reduce those vortices, and that'll you know, have an effect on what the airflow looks like going over and under the main wing, and will probably, you know, increase stability through different pitch attitudes. So, but that'll be something that we'll be looking at, you know, when I get over onto the west coast and we have access to a small wind tunnel. And now I'm halfway through the descent, and I've already called tower just to tell them, or at least ask them, for a full stop landing, and they've already, you know, given me initial instructions on how to make my entry. So I'm just continuing my descent right now, and we'll be landing on 17.
And but off the tower, Raptor 352 Tango Delta turning onto final, for full final for runway 17.
Good, 352 Tango Delta, runway 17, clear to land.
Runway 17, clear to land, 2 Tango Delta.
2 mile final runway 17. $500.
And for those of you wondering what the minimum flying speed is, watch the G3X there right before I'm touching down. It indicates 81 knots. I'm still flying. I'm descending, but I'm still flying. It's not like, you know, dropping out of the sky. And the ground speed shown 84 knots. So I think my airspeed indicator is reading pretty good there. So yeah, I mean, that was a little bit slow. I prefer landing a little bit faster than that, just so I'm not quite so much nose high attitude, but you know, it's not extreme by any means.
352 Tango Delta, turn left taxiway Charlie, hold short taxiway Alpha, contact ground and off.
Yeah, left on Charlie, hold short on Alpha, over to ground on 0.7, 2 Tango Delta.
Alright, that's going to be this video. Thanks again for watching. I've got one more still that I haven't edited yet, and then I'll be getting some more, at least, you know, by Thursday, once the weather is better and I can get in the air again. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.